Welcome to the Inside Syracuse Basketball Podcast. I'm Mike Waters. Today on the podcast, I'm joined by college basketball reporter Jeff Goodman of the Stadium and the Field of 68 podcast. I talked with Jeff about the current state of the Syracuse basketball program and what the future might have in store for the Orange. Well, welcome back to another edition of the Inside Syracuse Basketball Podcast. And today, I wanted to talk about Syracuse basketball and specifically and everything that's going on with the Orange. So I wanted to get somebody who was really just an incredible college basketball expert. And I found the guy, folks. It's a longtime friend of mine, a guy who knows the college basketball game as well as anybody else. Jeff Goodman, Jeff of the Stadium Insider, and the Field of 68 podcast, right? On Sirius Satellite Radio. Jeff, yes. Hey, listen, buddy. I introduce you like that, like, you're some big guy. We've known each other for so long. I'm so looking forward to having this conversation with you today.
No, it's always good to be on. You know what I think of you. We've known each other a long time since I broke in the industry, and I consider you somebody that honestly, and I'd say this to anybody, like I look up to, try to kind of pattern. Listen, I grew up as a writer, and now, I've kind of morphed into probably more on air or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what I do anymore, but still try to write as much as I can. But what you do and what you've done over the course of your career and how you've covered this beat is second to none. I mean that.
Well, I appreciate the compliment. And as we agreed on beforehand, checks in the mail. No, but you do a great job, and you always have, and you busted your butt when you broke into this industry. You were doing a lot of hard work at the grassroots level, and developing all your sources and everything. So again, I respect your knowledge and opinion, and we've both been around the game a long time, and neither one of us have ever seen a year like this in terms of Syracuse University basketball. We're recording this ahead of a game against Wake Forest on Saturday, and I don't know when it'll go up or when people will be listening to it. They could be listening to it after the Wake Forest game. But as of now, Syracuse is 9-11 overall and 3-6 in the ACC. They've never been under 500 this far into a season. This is a program that hasn't had a losing season in over 50 years. Just your general impressions of what's going on with Syracuse this season, Jeff.
When I came in, I was there for the preseason, the exhibition game.
Yeah.
And I walked away saying to myself, there's going to be a lot of bad losses. And I think there's going to be some big wins where, these guys can't really guard anybody. They don't have a lot of depth, but they can shoot the hell out of the ball. So they're going to get some wins that are unexpected because there'll be a night when Buddy and Joe and I thought Cole, all make 5 threes in a game and they end up shooting, 15 for 25 from 3, and they beat a team that they're not supposed to beat. There haven't been enough of those. Right. There have been way too many nights in which these guys aren't clicking, shooting the ball from 3. And I don't think it's necessarily their fault. I still go back to point guard play. I do. I mean, that's what I always go back to. If you don't have good enough point guard play, you don't have a chance. Even in a crappy ACC, you don't have a chance. And Joe, he made some strides, and then I think he stagnated in a lot of other areas, right? I mean, he's not really a point guard. Let's face it. He's not. He's being forced to play a position because of necessity.
Mm-hmm. Right.
I think ultimately, I don't want to say his name because I know that guy at Seton Hall, I'll call him. That guy at Seton Hall should be the starting point guard. And if he is, then I think it and I know his work ethic's been, and I talked to Kevin Willard about it even this year. Mm-hmm. His work ethic's been questioned and all that, but the kid's talented, and somehow, sometimes, and I know Jim Boeheim is very stuck in his ways, but sometimes you have to adapt and give a little bit. And, even like now with like a Benny Williams, you're 9-11. Mm-hmm. You're not really playing for anything the rest of the year. The only way you're playing for anything is if you win the ACC tournament. Otherwise, you're an NIT if that team. Play Benny because the foresight is, if you like Benny and his potential, first of all, you want to throw him to the fire and get him reps. Second of all, if you don't play him, he's going to be sitting there in the transfer portal potentially. So it's twofold. So I think you got to adapt. You got to look ahead. And again, I think the biggest problem with Syracuse right now is if you had a high-level point guard with, Buddy on the wing, with Cole Swider, those guys, they've got different looks than they've gotten this year with a high-level point guard. And Joe, to me, as like your first guard off the bench, then you got a team. Then you got a team that could right now should be the second best team in a mediocre. We've covered this game a long time. I know you cover the Big East for most of it, but since I've been following the ACC, since you've been following the ACC, this is the worst the league has ever been, and it's not even close.
Yeah. Boy, there's so much we could dissect there from there. All right. Let's focus first on the defense. You said that, you came up for that preseason exhibition game and walked away saying it's not going to be a good defensive team.
Nope.
I think they're worse than I expected.
No athleticism.
Yeah.
No, very, very little athleticism. They're not, they're just, you'd think, again, because you have Buddy and Jimmy, you got two guys who grew up playing the game, know the zone. You can know it all you want, but you still got to be able to play it. And again, Jesse's gotten better, but he's not your traditional Syracuse big that you expect in the middle of the two. We just had low expectations for Jesse in a lot of ways. Like they've had dudes along that back line, like dudes that were like long, athletic, could block, like just could cover ground. They don't have that now. That's not, Joe Girard's got no length. Yeah.
Right. Yep. The four perimeter positions are not athletic. Right. I thought the size with Jimmy and Cole both being about 6'8", 6'9", might make up for some of the athleticism. Wrong. I think the game, we see how the game has changed over the last 6-10 years. The Golden State Warriors effect. We see teams that instead of having two shooters and maybe a penetrating point guard, they've got 3 or 4 shooters, and
you need multiple point guards, and you need multiple point guards. And if you're Syracuse, you have like a half a point guard. Yeah. I don't know. There's a lot, like you said, there's a litany of reasons, but it starts with defense, and then I think you go point guard. Defense, point guard are 1 and 2 for me. Why this team? If you gave them more athleticism and a high level point guard, especially this year. You look around the country. I did my Kuzi top 10 point guards list. Yeah. It's the worst it's ever been. The position is by far in college basketball. So if there's ever a year where you could get away with not having a high level point guard situation, this is the year. Like the names, kid at Loyola Chicago, Braden Norris is on my list. Kid at Colorado State, Isaiah Stevens. You've never even heard of these kids. And they're among the top 10 point guard. Gillespie's on there. Akinjo's on there, but it's not a great list. So to me, again, if you had one this year, it would help you even more than in years past because there aren't a lot of really good ones out there.
Where have you gone, Tyler Ennis?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They could use him.
And speaking of Tyler was on the Syracuse team in their first year in the ACC. And that was the team that I called the carryover team. When we look at where this program is, since they moved to the ACC, it's been kind of a decline, a slow, steady, in the Big East. I got the number. I wrote them down knowing we were going to talk.
Yeah.
Last 7 years in the Big East, 87 and 39. If you take away the carryover year, the Tyler Ennis year in 2014. So the season since then, Syracuse in the ACC is 68 and 67.
Wow.
They're 500. Now, BC and Pitt and some other programs would love to be 500 in the ACC, but this is not where this is. Is it simply because they're not in the league that they're supposed to be in, the league where they made their brand and have their history?
I think that's too simplifying it. You know,
Okay.
I don't think it's just that, but yeah, I mean, it's affected a lot of those schools. You know, certainly you fit the Big East better, right? Whether it was, you know, again, Pitt was one that really, really got hurt by it. BC is BC. Like they're going to stink no matter what league they're in right now to me.
Okay.
But Syracuse, yeah, I think it was affected by it. You know, I also think, again, like once you lose some recruiting momentum, like it's hard to get it back. And it is hard to get kids to Syracuse. It is hard to get elite kids to Syracuse, you know, like to me. And now you've got, you know, over the last few years, it's easy to negative recruit against them. Well, Boeheim's not going to be there. He's going to be there 1 year.
They're using his age against him.
Of course. Yeah. He's the oldest. Is it him or Cliff Ellis?
No, it's Jim.
Jim's the oldest. Okay. Cliff Ellis is close. He's the oldest coach, and now they don't have a plan. At least when they had Hop, you could sell a plan with the coach in waiting. That, I think, after watching what Kay did last year, when he said, I'm retiring and Shire's going to be the guy, I think that should have been done a year or two ago with whoever's going to be the next guy. I think waiting continues to hurt the program rather than saying, hey, listen, you know, Wild Hack and Jim getting together and saying, let's figure this out. Who's it going to be? Is it going to be Red? Is it going to be GMAC? And I know that's going to make it tough for whoever doesn't get it. I assume it's going to be one of those two. And you tell me if you think I'm wrong.
No, I don't. I think those guys have to be at the top of your list of potential candidates. I think history and it means a lot in a program like this. It's why Duke went with Shire. It's why Carolina went with Hubert Davis.
That's right.
I think Syracuse is along there. You know what you were saying there about
it would be awkward.
Plan.
Yeah, it would be awkward for whoever doesn't get it. But at least then, if you're recruiting a top player, you're saying, hey, listen, here's the deal. Jim, he's going to be here for the next year. And then after that, this is going to be the guy. It might be Jim. He might stay more than that. If not, you know 100% you're going to be playing for whether it's Red or GMAC, one of the two of them. Here you go.
You know, I talked to Jim Boeheim before this season started about this sort of stuff.
How did that go? How did that go, Mike?
It went great.
Did it?
Yeah, it was a very interesting conversation. He had thoughts. You know, when I brought up the transition that was supposed to have taken place, you know, in 2015, they announced that he was going to leave in 3 years.
Right.
He said, looking back, he thought it hurt. He thought it hurt. He said that people knowing he was going to leave cost them players. Is it better? I mean, Duke shortened that window. Duke, it's just 1 year. Anybody there recruiting knows it's Shire. Yep. Carolina didn't even have even a sliver of window. They ripped the Band-Aid off and went straight to Hubert. I got to wonder, maybe that 3 year, even having a plan, maybe 3 years was too long.
Right. I think it was. I think if you're going to do it now, you know, listen, how many more years? I mean, he's 77. Like, I got to figure you're talking a year at this point. You know, you want to come back for next year? Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe he can go till 80. I mean, shit, Tom Brady's playing at 44, right? Like, who, you know, Jim Boeheim can coach till he's 80. And again, I tell everybody this. The guy is as sharp mentally as he was 20 years ago. There is no difference. Zero. Now, again, has the program been steadily declining and falling off? Absolutely. Like they haven't had the same level of success, whether it's him getting older, whether maybe it's Hop being gone and they haven't recruited nearly as well since Hop left. I mean, listen, Hop was beloved around coaching circles, around here, prep school. You know how I came up. I came up through the prep schools. That's how I got into college basketball because I was covering prep schools. Right. Those guys friggin' love Hop, like would do anything for him. When he came into the gym, like it was like chest bumps, you name it. Like, so yes, I think him leaving definitely affected the quality of talent that they've brought in. No knock to Red or GMAC or Alan Griffin. They're all really good assistant coaches and great guys. But Hop was a different level of connector.
Yeah.
He just had that it factor when it came to recruiting where you felt like you were the most special. When I was a recruiting analyst, a young guy breaking in, I always felt like, man, I'm Hop's guy. He's giving me like I'm his guy. And I'm telling you, every other media person felt the same damn way.
Right. Yes. Now, I will defend the current guys because a lot of people, want to say like they're not doing well and Hop was so much better. Hop cut his recruiting chops and built his reputation as a recruiter when Jim Boeheim was a much younger man.
No doubt.
When Syracuse was in the Big East.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
And so I think it's a lot different.
It was easier. He had more. Yeah. He had more to work with.
Yeah. They lost recruits when they went to the ACC, when Hop was here too, when things started changing, when those NCAA sanctions hit. Again, I don't think the sanctions themselves hurt all that much, but the timing was horrible because it was during your transition period to a new conference as well. So, so here we are, not long-term future. Let's go short-term. Next season, where do you see this program at? I mean, Buddy's a senior, could technically come back.
Yeah, he's not coming back.
Right. Cole Swider's in his 4th year of college, could technically come back. Joe will have another year. Jesse's got a year. Yeah. Jimmy is an Ivy League kid right now. He can't come back, but somebody from the Ivy League's eventually going to challenge that.
Right.
But you could lose Buddy, Jimmy, and Cole.
Yeah. I mean, you got a decent class coming in next year. A bunch of dudes that we don't know how good they are. You don't win with freshmen in this league. We know that.
Unless they're Duke freshmen.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, they got to be Paolo Bencaro and some dudes, Mark Williams. It's like, guy, he's not a freshman anymore. But you're not winning with freshmen. I don't think Buddy comes back. You got to prepare as if Jimmy doesn't come back. And I still think it's 50-50 whether Jim comes back. And that's just me. That's just me speculating. Is maybe he just says at this point, like, all right, you know what? I had this experience with my kids. Now it's time. He's got to say it at some point. And me selfishly, because maybe I'm not supposed to admit this as a reporter. We're old school, right? You're not supposed to say when you like somebody that you cover. Mm-hmm. I like Jim Boeheim. I do. And again, I've had my issues with him. I was one of the reporters that he told to go get their Pulitzer somewhere else at Marquette. So like,
I remember that presser.
Yeah, it was awesome. But like, I just want him to go out the right way. Mm-hmm. I just want him. I saw it with Lute Olson, who I went to Arizona. I didn't really have any relationship with Lute when I was a student, and then started to have a really good relationship with him when I covered recruiting and then covered college basketball. And it broke my heart to see how Lute Olson went out. That it came down to basically doctors, and health reasons why he couldn't go out the way he wanted. Jim Boeheim is in great health right now.
That's true.
Jim, you know what? Go enjoy yourself, my man. Like go travel with Julie. Do whatever you want to do now. You don't have to now I know he loves this. So like, this is probably what he wants to do. Yeah. So I guess it's hard. I just want him to go out the right way because, man, I like Jim Boeheim a lot. I have so much respect for him and what he's built, but I understand on the flip side, it's like, all right, the program, it keeps kind of steadily going down now, where in the past it was like, all right, you know what? We'll just sneak in the tournament and we'll get to a Sweet 16 or maybe even a Final Four. And we don't care what we do in the regular. Well, you're not, you may be in the CBI this year.
Right. Yes. The next step in that decline is what happened this year. And it doesn't look like they're going to get that shot to be that 10 seed that causes a lot of havoc in the tournament. So now here you are. They got to hit the portal, I think.
Yes.
And they can't hit the portal the way that they did last year. Last year, they didn't really. Everybody that came in the portal fell in their laps. Jimmy Boeheim was right down the hall.
Right.
So
yes.
That was not our. Symir Torrance was a Syracuse kid who just wanted to come home.
Yep.
And Cole Swider, they had recruited 3 years earlier out of high school. He wasn't in the portal 30 seconds before he was committing to Syracuse. So next year, I think or this spring, their approach to the portal, they've got to really
can approach
attack
it. Listen, you can attack it all you want, Mike. The one thing I'll say is, look at some of the guys. Remy Martin was a top guy in the portal. He's doing nothing at Kansas right now. Marcus Carr was a top guy in the portal. He went from Minnesota to Texas. He's been absolutely underwhelming and a disappointment so far. Yeah. So a lot. I can give you 25. I can give you 25 more of those. More. And I was talking to Tom Izzo about this. I was at the Illinois-Michigan State game the other night, and we're talking after the game. And one point he made was, now with guys not having to sit out, it's much harder for these guys to have immediate success because they come in and they don't know the system.
Right.
They actually, like in a case of Marcus Carr, he goes from Minnesota where he's got the ultimate freedom. It's like AAU ball. Like he can come down, jack whatever he wants. Now he's playing motion at Texas with a bunch of other players that have come from losing programs. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't know what to do. It takes a while to deprogram them, where in that year sitting out, you can kind of deprogram in that year for the first part of the year. And then they understand and can practice that whole year with the team and chemistry and all that. And he's got a kid, Tyson Walker, who came from Northeastern here near me, who I thought is super talented. Yeah. And he looks completely lost right now at Michigan State.
Okay, so after having doused that flame with a bucket of water, Jeff,
well, you got to get lucky. You got to get there's a lot of luck to it, I guess, is what I'm saying. Is there's some that have worked. The same game I saw, Illinois got a kid, Alfonso Plummer, who transferred from Utah, who's been sensational, has shot the hell out of it. But we didn't even have him near the top. Tari Eason's another one. He averaged like 7 points a game at Cincinnati last year. He's been arguably LSU's most valuable player this year. I didn't have him. I did a list of top 100 transfers. He wasn't even on that list. He didn't make the top 100. So what I'm saying is it's like playing craps. You have no idea what you're going to get with a transfer portal because most of these kids, now Syracuse different last year, like you said, most of these kids, you don't know a whole lot about. You're going to call the coaches. Maybe the coach will be honest with you if you really, really know them well. But even if they're honest, what might be a terrible situation for one kid at one place might be a great situation, again, like this kid Plummer. At Utah, he was just okay. He's been awesome on a really good Illinois team.
Wesley Johnson. It was a horrible fit for him at Iowa State. It was a broken marriage out there. He came to Syracuse. He did sit out a year. He was back in the days when he sat out. But he sat out. And boy, that kid couldn't have been a nicer kid. Couldn't have worked out any better.
Yeah, he was a sweet kid, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's fantastic. Yeah. But yeah, we've seen transfers that work the other way too. And Geno Thorpe came here to Syracuse, didn't last 10 games.
Right.
So
and we build these guys up.
Yeah.
And generally the rule of thumb is if you transfer up a level, like the kid did, I said Tyson Walker from Northeastern to a high level. I did this study a couple of years ago. Now, it might even be different after this year because they're not sitting out. But generally, it was cut the numbers in half. Really? Cut the numbers. Whatever they did production at the previous spot, cut it in half. Now, I think you're going to cut it even further with them not sitting out a year. I'm going to do that study at the end of this year once we get it. And we're going to be absolutely blown away by how disappointing a lot of these transfers were.
Wow. So here we are with Syracuse, and you say, we don't know what Jim's going to do. This could be his last year. He could come back for one more year.
Wait. I want to throw it on you. And I hate to do this in your podcast, but I'm dying to know, am I wrong with 50-50, or do you think there's no shot and he's back 100% next year?
I don't think anything's 100%. Because I don't know how this whole season's affecting him. I do know he's a prideful man, stubborn, and
you think stubborn? That might be his biggest quality, right? Stubborn. But if you're listing Jim's qualities, you might say stubborn might be number one.
And that's a positive in some cases.
Of course.
Yes.
Of course
he's stubborn because, he's going to make things work. I think I could see him wanting to not want to go out with this kind of season. to fix things, repair things, get things back on track. Maybe
Could he
try
do
to
the
make
K? Could he do the K thing, Mike, next year? After this year,
Yes.
could he look at what K did with Shire and say, you know what? I kind of like it. It worked. Why not do that? I think that's the way it should be done, because I want Jim Boeheim to have the farewell tour.
Mm-hmm.
He deserves it. He deserves it.
I agree with you. He does, even though some of these guys don't love it at first, or sometimes I think they don't love the idea of it, but then I think they appreciate it when they go through it.
Yep.
And we mentioned K, and coaches do this all different ways. Al McGuire, we knew he was walking away in 77 before we even got to the Final Four, and he wins it all. Roy surprises us after a season and says, folks, that was it. I'm gone. K, though, he and Boeheim have one of the closest coaching relationships going.
Anybody. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, he's had friends in the business, but PJ Carlesimo's not in college basketball anymore, and guys like that. I think I could see him talking to K, watching the way it's working at Duke.
Smooth.
And if he thinks it's working for both K personally and Duke as a program, yes, he does do that.
I hope so.
I don't know when.
I think he can do it after this year, because again, you're 77 at this point, gives you another year. Mm-hmm. Everybody knows it's your last year. So the fan base then settles down in their maybe, and I think it's mostly the younger generation that has like a little bit of like contempt for him and sticking around too long and the program going down. You and I appreciate what the guy has done. It's like Absolutely. He has a right to go out however the hell he wants to go out. He built this thing, mm-hmm. and without Jim Boeheim, there is no Syracuse basketball. So if he wants to go another couple of years, you know what? And it's not great, let it be. So again, to me, it's just good health. That's the biggest thing for Jim Boeheim for me. And I wish he was able to enjoy this season with his sons more from a winning perspective, because
that's interesting. You bring that up.
Yeah, I just felt like, man, this could be a storybook type season for them if somehow. And I got a really soft spot in my heart for Buddy. Mm-hmm. I talked to him at the Peach Jam years ago. We spent an hour. And it's funny. I wrote that story about Buddy, and I knew after that, like, I honestly think Jim's perception of me changed so much after I wrote that story. And now I understand it, Mike, because I flip it with you. And I came up to Syracuse, as you know, before the season started, and my daughter's considering Syracuse as one of her schools. And Jim Boeheim, the day of that game, we sit in his office for an hour plus, and he's just shooting the shit with us, telling stories, talking about Syracuse. And you know how much, you do know how much, I don't have to tell you, as a father, that means, because all you care about when you get to be our age, we're anxious, is your kids. That's all that matters. So when I wrote that story about Buddy Boeheim, I didn't understand the impact that would have. And I don't know it to be true, but I'm pretty sure Jim had a different level of respect for me after I wrote that story about his kid.
Yeah, that's interesting. And you're right. You can say anything you want about me, but once you say, your kid, or, things can be going wrong, and you could be having a tough time professionally or whatever, or as long as your kids are happy, right?
Yeah.
As a dad, as a father, you're having a good day as long as your kids are good.
Yep.
I know it's got to be really difficult for both Jim and Julie to go through this kind of season. It's got to be hard on them. But going back to Jim, I think he comes back next season. And again, it's not 100%, but he's told the 5 high school recruits in their recruiting process that he was going to be there. And I don't think, I think he keeps that promise. Now, if
he doesn't want to go out this way, he doesn't want to go out this way either.
I agree.
That's the thing. If it's one more shot, and he's already done the 3-year one more chance and extended it. So listen, even if you're Jim and you say, hey, one more year, and then he says in a year, hey, John, I'm gonna go one more. Like, what are you going to say? I mean, seriously, if you're Wild Hack, what are you going to say? No?
You can't. I guess you can't.
Right?
You just have to say, what? I don't know what you say at that point.
Exactly.
Listen, Red Autry's reaching a retirement age. We got him, let him coach one year
right.
before he's
exactly. That's right. Though. Well, that was always Hop's deal, right? It was like, hey, I'm going to be 60 years old before this dude retires. I got to go somewhere else to get another chance.
We're laughing and having a good time on this, but you're right. I mean, it's like when Bill Guthridge succeeded Dean.
Right. How old was he?
He had to have been in his 60s. I don't know exactly, but yeah, he had been with Dean for decades.
Yeah. Man, I wish it was better for the family. And again, you'd never know it with Buddy. Like, man, he's always smiling. He's always happy. I felt bad that he had such a bad shooting performance at Cameron. So I really thought maybe he'd come out there and just start draining threes and, but yeah, listen, not everything's easy for, I mean, again, you get used to the expectations being so high at a place like Syracuse. And now I think you understand, like, it's a hard job. What Jim Boeheim has done at Syracuse is nothing short of remarkable, because most guys, the years they've had over the last 5 or 6 years, Mike, would be incredible at Syracuse. And they've been kind of ho-hum, like you said, you gave that number 68 and 67 in the ACC. For most guys, that'd be pretty good at a place like Syracuse. Because if you really go down the list of the best jobs in the ACC, I mean, again, Louisville's a top 10 job. Duke and Carolina are top. You've got 3 top 10 jobs right there in one league. No other league can say that. And then you got a bunch of other jobs that are pretty good in the league. I mean, Virginia's a good job.
Great facility.
Right. So people don't get, when you throw everything together for Syracuse, the dome is old. It's big, but it's old. Right?
Yes.
I mean, the practice facility is beautiful, but everybody's got a nice practice facility these days. Almost everybody does, other than, here in Boston College. But again, when you look at it, it's a middle of the road probably job in the ACC when you really get down to it. And they've been playing like a middle of the road team in the ACC these last few years.
Yeah. And that's really different for a lot of Syracuse fans. And they're still wrapping their heads around it as we speak. Well, we'll see where the rest of the season takes us. I hope it takes you to a lot of incredible basketball gyms, filled to capacity, and you get to see some fun ball. I know it's the best part of our job is to go to these games and see basketball and in that environment. I appreciate having you on, and we got to get it. We got to do this again, and maybe not make it incredibly Syracuse centric, and we can just share some stories about college basketball and recruiting and coaches and stuff like that.
I wanted to ask you, and we probably don't have time, but you can give me the one word answer. All right. You don't even have to expand on it. Who is your favorite Syracuse player you have ever covered? Who is your, like, to talk to interview, to be around? Who is that guy that, like, you miss?
There's not just one. Remember, I've been here too long. If I'd only been here 10 years, I could give you one.
No, one answer. One player. You got to pick one. Pick one. Come on.
No, I'm going to knock off several.
All right. Go ahead.
Scoop Jardine is at or near the top of the list.
He was a quote machine, wasn't he?
Absolutely. Right. So
love Scoop.
Andy Routens was a great kid, incredibly thoughtful, knowledgeable, obviously son of Leo. You expect that of Andy. Yep. Terrence Roberts was an absolute hoot. Fun as hell. Great quote. Loved interviewing him. Atan Thomas was one of the smartest, most thoughtful kids I've ever talked to. So, I'm giving you different guys, the fun guys who had no filter, and then the super thoughtful, smart guys who you talk to at a different level. I've been very, very lucky over the years to
good kids.
A lot of really, really good kids.
You know who my favorite was? Yeah.
Who?
You're not going to believe it, I don't think. Paul Harris. My favorite.
Absolutely.
My favorite. I love Paul Harris. I always there's something about Paul Harris. Like, he was the toughest dude that I always say, if I could bring somebody down to play at like Rucker Park anybody in the world, I would have taken Paul Harris.
Yep.
That dude would have kicked your ass. He didn't care who was going up against him. And just, I loved Paul Harris because there was never any BS with Paul. Like, he would just tell you exactly the way it was, his background. He had nothing to hide. And he just went through so much. And I still keep in touch with Paul and try to text him as much as I can. That's the best part of our job, Mike. That's Absolutely. The best part of our job is watching a kid like Paul Harris, who's had so much stacked up against him in life, and watch him now make a career and have a family. And like, I love that. I love seeing these guys. Like, the one kid I haven't been able to find, Johnny Flynn. Where is Johnny Flynn? Have you been able to find him?
I've kind of heard where he is and stuff, but he's become kind of reclusive. He doesn't want to talk to the media. I've tried to get him for both interviews on my podcast here and also just for a story. I enlisted Paul Harris's help for a short time.
Nothing.
Well, kind of at one point I knew Johnny was in Florida. And then I heard that, oh, wait, he was at a Niagara Falls basketball game. And then back, so listen, I want to respect Johnny's. Oh, you were talking about where Paul came from. And it's not just Paul. It's a lot of the guys we've covered.
Sure.
Especially you when you were, doing your
Prep
recruiting.
School. Yeah.
I went to Niagara Falls when Syracuse had recruited Paul.
Yep.
And you don't think of Niagara Falls immediately as the same way you might think of Harlem or Bed-Stuy or Compton. But I got to tell you, and I say this for the Syracuse fans out there so they understand some of the guys that they cheer for. Paul came from a rough background, really scary area.
Yeah.
You said he had a lot of stuff stacked up against him. The fact that he made it out of there is nothing short of a miracle, and it's a testament to his character. And I love Paul. He was.
That's
fantastic.
what our job. I'm telling you, that's the best part of our job. That is, people don't understand that. Like, the games are great. But getting to know some of these guys, and again, I was fortunate because I did recruiting. So I knew, Kevin Durant when he was 14 years old. I think I was the first interview he ever did. And the kid didn't say 2 words. He was so shy. But watching the Paul Harrises grow, and Johnny Flynn and Buddy and all these guys who've come. I mean, I knew that whole group well, the Terrence Roberts, Mookie, like that whole group, like, that's what I did. I covered recruiting. I called these kids all the time. I kind of miss that. Like, people ask me all the time. They're like, what do you, because I cover some NBA, obviously mostly college. And I go out on the road in July a little bit. I go out, but I don't talk to the high school kids like I used to. And I'm probably too old to be able to connect with the high school kids. It's hard enough connecting with my daughter. But I miss that time in my life, to be honest, when I covered recruiting. And just kind of seeing these kids when they appreciated it, and they hadn't been, a lot of them, they hadn't had their asses kissed yet. So they were playing for the actual love of the game, and things were different then too. You didn't have social media and all that. So there were less distractions on that end than there are now. They weren't as wrapped up in themselves as I think they are now. But yeah, that's the best part of the job by far. Get the relationships. And they say, like, you and I both grew up old school of like objectivity. Objectivity is everything, right? When you're writing. And now that's out the window for most people. Out the window. It's a joke. I can't even deal with it. But, I'm objective, but I'll tell you what, when kids, I'll give you a quick story and then we'll leave it. Here's a great story. So Syracuse, Duke is playing. Greg Paulus is a freshman. This is a local. That's why I'm giving you the story. It's a local tie a little bit with Paulus. They lose his freshman year at Duke. J.J. Redick's senior year, Sheldon Williams' senior year. Forget where the game was, NCAA tournament, but they're knocked out. Greg Paulus, who is highly, highly, highly recruited, is in the locker room bawling. I've known Greg since he was 14. I've talked to him a million times. Broke his recruitment, all that stuff. Yeah. Cameras in his face. He's bawling. They won't leave him. He gives me a look. You know what I did, Mike? I stuck my ass right in between him and that camera.
Really?
And I know I shouldn't have. I know I shouldn't have as a journalist, but I'm like, screw that. You know what? You want to get your shot and get the hell out. This kid's a kid. Yeah. And that's the biggest thing I think we've learned through this is these are kids, and college is a lot different than the pros. When they make money, it's different. Then you want to criticize, that's fine. Mm-hmm. College kids, like it's hard for me to even be critical on Joe Girard.
Yeah.
In the point guard position. I don't want to be critical on Joe Girard, but I'm also trying to be honest of what the root of the issue is with Syracuse. And I think
you're not being hard on the kid. It's just an analysis of a game.
Right.
So I get that. But
anyway,
yeah.
Sorry to ramble, but I really wanted to. Scoop Jardine was a great answer on your the first one that came out of your mouth, Scoop. He would have been in my top 2 or 3 for sure.
There you go. So anyway. And then, of course, that's my special relationship with Derek Coleman. Derek, if you're out there,
Derek, you got to coast. Yeah, you should be doing like an off season, like a series, a Derek Coleman series or something. Because man, I actually, how about this? Here you go. Hold on.
What have we got? We're delaying the end of the script 44.
The only jersey, the only jersey that I own.
Really?
The only jersey that I own of college basketball. Yeah, Derek Coleman. My favorite player.
He was on the first team I covered.
Wow.
It was his junior year. Yeah.
That's crazy to me. That is insane. Wow.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
That's cool though. That's cool. You've been there for all of it. And again, like I said, I know the check's already in the mail. I don't need to say this now because it's already in there, but you've done it the right way. I hope people in Syracuse appreciate what they have in you and Donna.
Oh, Donna, especially.
No, both of you. I've told my daughter this when she met both of you. No better. There's nobody better because again, the way you guys do it, you do it professionally, you do it the right way, but you're also not going to kiss the ass of anybody there. You're going to do it the way it should be done.
Well, it's if there's anybody out listening, I don't know if fans care, but if there's any young budding journalists out there, you do it the right way and then you get to do it for a long time.
Right. Although these days, I'm not sure if that's the case anymore, but yes. Right?
This has been great, Jeff. And you do a great job. And I appreciate all the insight and the analysis, and then some of the stories too. Yeah. We've gone on longer than I planned.
My apologies. I know there was a hard out at 40 minutes. I'm sure we went over that, but whatever.
We did. We're both to blame.
We can do this all day.
Thanks for joining me here on the Inside Syracuse Basketball Podcast. I look forward to seeing you down the road, and good luck to your daughter on her college decision. I expect to see something on either Tipton Edits.
Yes. We'll get that done. I will. So listen, thanks for having me. Hope to see you soon. And good luck with everything.
Thanks, man. We'll see you now.